Hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal. We are live on a Friday lunchtime, which means it's time for us to talk about coping with feelings. And this week, I wanted to talk about the feeling of taking some steps in the right direction. You know, you've heard me talk time and time again about the fact if ever you want to change your life, or if ever there's something in your life that you're not happy about, obviously you can't keep on doing what you've always done. You need to change it up because otherwise you're not going to get the right result. And in terms of that, I have had a few challenges going on in the last couple of weeks or even the last month. And I have worked pretty hard to make some changes so that I take some steps in the right direction. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. But before we get on to that, I just wanted to acknowledge that it is Memorial Day weekend for a lot of you in the States. And I wonder whether you consider that to be the official start of summer. And I say that because, that is what I believe happens, even though it's nearly a month before the solstice start to summer, if you like. But there's something about the Memorial Day weekend. The weather normally has brightened up a bit, and it's like the barbecues come out full force, and I hope that you have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. In terms of birthdays, I know this is a very, birthdays, anniversaries, and important dates. Hi there, Jody. Good to see you. I wanted to say that I know must have been a very difficult week and weekend for Jeannie, one of our regular viewers, because it was on Memorial Day weekend that her house caught fire. And then also yesterday, she put her husband, York, uh, into his final resting place. And, that must have been so difficult. Although the funeral was some time ago, she actually did the interment yesterday. And our thoughts and prayers go out to her and the family, as this must have been a very difficult weekend. And it was made more difficult by the fact that when they turned up to do the interment on Wednesday, the funeral people got it wrong and they weren't ready for her. And so she had to delay it by a day. Can you imagine that when you have, got yourself all worked up, ready to do this? But in a way, maybe it was a blessing. We'll find out from Jeannie when she talks about it. So I am not aware of any birthdays this week. Jody, I know you've got an anniversary coming up on the 27th. So it's Sunday. So happy anniversary to you and Lionel, and hope that you have a wonderful weekend celebrating that. I definitely want to say that there's a quote that says, small steps in the right direction are better than big steps in the wrong direction. And what happens all too often when we want to make changes? Oh, Jody's reminding me that tomorrow is the 27th. Oh my gosh, am I a day behind already? Thank you, Jody. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm still working on yesterday's date for some reason. Um, so, how many of you agree with that? That just taking a small step in the right direction uh, helps you feel better. Where okay, I have done something in the right direction. And the reason that I want you to think about that is because it really is the key to so many things. If you can understand that you don't need to take monumental steps in one direction, just little ones, baby steps, if you remember, just helps so much if you can just get that mentality going. And I'm hoping that you can all see that it is worth your time. But if you keep on doing what you've always done, you're always going to get what you've always had, and you didn't like that, so time to make some changes. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the ones that I have made. As you guys know, last weekend I went camping on Saturday lunchtime through to Sunday lunchtime, um, and just 24 hours, and it was wonderful. And that was a complete change, and it felt like I'd been away for a whole long weekend. I don't mind telling you that. Just being away overnight just felt like I'd been away for the whole weekend. And however, I was smart enough to know that just that preparation, all that went into the preparing for that, was as much as for going away for a week, quite honestly. By the time you got your clothes organized and you got your food organized and stuff like that. And so I knew I was going to be, oh, and then all the excitement and, all the things that go on with it. It all takes a toll on your body. And I am more and more aware of how much of a toll it takes. And so what I found out was that, um, it is okay to take a day off and, to recover. And to me, the day off was wonderful. Um, I decided on Monday I was going to sleep as long as it took. It was a holiday day here. Your Memorial Day is this weekend, and we had what we call Victoria Day on Monday. So it was, a day where everybody was taking a day off, and I decided that included me. And so I looked at it and went, it is okay to rest. How many of you have difficulty taking that step? The step to give yourself permission to just take a day off. And it was so funny because a friend of mine has just retired. And one of the things I said to her, I just want to warn you that all the things you think retirement looks like and feels like, you're about to get a very rude awakening that it's very different. And I said, in about a month, you're going to start wondering how on earth you ever worked as well as do all the things that you're now doing. And by a year from now, you are really going to feel it. Hi, Maria. You're really going to feel it. And by 5 years of retirement, you're going to just know that it is so, so different. When you found what your proper um, sleep clock is like, it is just amazing how that happens. And so that taking that time to recover from running around so much is very important. So just give yourself permission to rest. We are in such a go, 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 go environment these days. Our social media and everything that we do is about instant. And I really, really encourage you to take your time on some things. If you want to lower your stress levels and just be. I had forgotten how good it is to actually take the time to sit down and watch an inspirational movie. And I did. I decided to watch the movie Air. I think it's on Prime, which is about the way that Nike, who was then a completely um, bottom of the rung type shoemaker, and how they changed their whole direction by signing Michael Jordan, and all that it took to sign him when he wasn't wanting to sign with them originally, or it's just an incredible story. And what I had forgotten was how good it is to actually watch one of those um, underdog type stories, and how during the movie, I was just rooting for them to be able to do it, and I knew they did, but it's like, how are they going to do this? And it was amazing how much passion and how much love and how much reality went into it. And the final decision wasn't made by Michael Jordan, it was made by his mother. And so from that, um, Oh, Maria's saying no spoilers, please. Yeah, well, you know, I just want to say that it is definitely well worth watching. And you know the spoiler, you know that Nike signed him, so that's the major spoiler. But it's not because I said it, it's because it's fact. And everybody knows that. But anyway, definitely well worth the time, I thought, for me anyway. I came away from watching it being really excited about it. And, Maria's asked me, what are my thoughts about mini retirement periods that people take between these days? I can remember taking a mini retirement. I took almost a year. It was the other way around, Maria. Maria's asking, why did Michael Jordan's parents name him after a shoe? No, the shoe was named after him. And that's the story, and that's why you need to watch the movie. So, it kind anyway, watch the movie. It's real well worth watching. Um, I also wanted to say that this week I played around with a little pack of ramen, and I decided, after that camping trip, I had too many vegetables left over, and what I did was I made a ramen dish, and it really basically was ramen and a lot of vegetables and a little bit of cheese in it. And boy, I want to tell you something. How simple was that? And one little pack of ramen, by the time it was all cooked up, was 2 meals, and just a step in the right direction of trying to um, use up vegetables. And I got a big problem. I have now got 2 freezers again, absolutely full of food, and I need to start eating them. And that's difficult in the summer because you eat different foods in the summer, so it's going to be a challenge, but I need to do it. I'm definitely need to get at least half of my freezers emptied before the end of the summer, even if I have to throw stuff away. So did any of you make a fun dish this weekend? Or oh, Jody relates to the full freezer problem. Yep. But I don't regret it, Jody. But I do know I've got stuff in that freezer that has been there for longer than food that I've made that's been there longer than it should be. And so I'm going to start hacking every week. I'm going to start hacking some of it out. And I don't think it's a waste of money of the stuff that I cooked at the time. It was relevant and so forth. But I haven't eaten it in a year, so it might as well not be there. So I wanted to check, just while we're talking about movies, what is your favorite inspirational movie? So I can add it to my list. Um, and which ones do you go back to? My point being that it's really important that you watch things that inspire you. And, some of you probably have your favorite romantic comedy, but it's just like when you want to feel inspired, what do you watch? What do you read? What do you listen to? Now, for some of you, it'll be different things, I know. Yeah, Jody's saying It's a Wonderful Life is a favorite. Yeah, especially at Christmas time. So just remember that we are so lucky these days. We have the ability to watch so many great movies. And I think, it's at one point I downloaded the top 100 romantic movies, and I sort of started working my way through them to see how many of them I could watch when I felt in that mood. And then the top inspirational movies. And so just think about that. By the way, in that movie Air, the cast was unbelievable. You had Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and Jason Bateman, who I adore, all in there, and it was just wonderful. It is said that small steps in the right direction can be the biggest steps of your life. Just a small step in the right direction can be the biggest step of your life. And I totally go with that one. Jody, our admin, is saying, I read motivational quotes and remind myself to count our blessings. A fun romantic movie. Yep, you've got Mail. Absolutely. Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. But, isn't it amazing when you go back and rewatch it? I don't know about you, but I had forgotten um, a lot of that story, or Sleepless in Seattle being another one with the two of them, right? Um, where, it takes the whole movie for them to actually meet. But it's a great movie. I sort of can't remember. I saw one romantic comedy this week, and it was actually quite good, and I can't remember what it was. I have to say that I'm pleased that I took a step literally in the right direction. You all know that I keep track of my steps, and I want to tell you that there's no doubt in my mind that you know that you want to do something when you keep track of it and when you make time for it. All right. And so I have for many years kept track of my steps. And has it made a difference? Yes. When I think about it, a couple of years ago, I was happy to do 3,000 steps a day, quite honestly. I thought that was magical. And now I do 6,000 without really thinking too much about it. And I am amazed that I can do 6,000 without even doing either my mini bike. I've got one of those under the desk bikes that I sit and do when I'm binge watching sometimes. Or, one of my walking programs that I've got on my WII. I've amazed that I can do that now by just keep moving. In other words, don't sit down as much. Right? And I've got lots of excuses why I should not do that. I've got a hip that's giving me a lot of problems. And so I could have the excuse where I can't do this because my hip hurts. Well, hello, I need to do it because my hip hurts. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody other than me, but it's like I need to keep moving. If I don't keep moving, it will seize completely and I'll be in even bigger trouble. So I am delighted that I've managed to get that far ahead of the game, if you like. And I would recommend, again, I did it in small incremental steps, all right? I didn't go from sort of 3,000 to 6,000, and I've been as high as 10 or 12. But I didn't do it quickly. I did it very slowly. I've been building my strength. And now it makes me laugh because I'm busy, on the mini bike, binge watching. And at the same time, I'm lifting weights, and doing all sorts of things. And I'm going, who knew that this would be part of my regular routine? Now, you're probably thinking, gosh, that's wonderful, Sal. How are you feeling about that? I'm feeling really good about that because I know it's a step in the right direction. But am I losing weight? No. And that is really weird because I'm also, done a lot of good eating this week. But it is what it is. And I will talk a bit more about that towards the end. I was so sad this week, I don't know about you, to hear about the passing of Tina Turner. I was delighted to hear that she continued to perform well into her 80s. And you go, isn't that wonderful? And that tells me that she just loved to perform. And it made me smile. I was telling Jody, it made me smile because I went and watched Engelbert Humperdinck, for any of you who go back that far, live, and he was 85 at the time. And the interesting thing was to watch him. There's part of you that watches him and sees him as a young man. But in case you forgot that, they had a video up of him as a young man, so you could always compare the two. And he wasn't perfect, quite honestly. He still had that low range, but his high range wasn't there. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter. You could tell he just loved to perform. And I saw the same in Tina Turner. All right. She just loved to do that. And I was trying to think, they were both long past the need to do it for the money, right? I think you know that. I did a bit of research, and I wonder if you did as well, which is we know that she had a terrible time with her husband, Ike. You remember the original Ike and Tina Turner. And he abused her horribly. And I wondered, what happened to Ike, and how, when he died, how much was he worth? And apparently when he died, he was worth about 500,000. When Tina died, she was worth over 250 million. And I think that's the greatest revenge story that I can think of. But did she work her heart out for it? Yes, she did. And was it easy? No, it wasn't. And that's going to be a movie that I haven't watched yet, but I'm going to be watching the movie What's Love Got to Do with It. So I just wanted to add that. I wonder what was your favorite song of Ike and Tina Turner together? Um, and what automatically comes into your mind? For me, it was River Deep, Mountain High, um, and also Proud Mary. Yeah, Jodie's adding that movie is both heartbreaking and inspiring. I think any story about somebody who survives abuse has to be both heartbreaking and inspiring. So yeah, Jodie, and that's why I want to add it to my list of movies that I want to see. And I keep a list, and that's really important. What about your favorite single? Yeah, when she went out on her own, what was your favorite Tina Turner song when she did a solo career? For me, obviously, What's Love Got to Do with It was a big favorite of mine, but she didn't like it apparently. It's just like it was her one number one hit, and she didn't like it. But that I've heard that time and time again. Actually, I should do a little bit. Yes, you love Private Dancer, and We Don't Need Another Hero. That's from Mad Max, I think, wasn't it, Jodie? That was from the soundtrack of Mad Max. Um, so that is, yeah, I definitely remember you and enjoyed We Don't Need Another Hero. So fond memories, and then sadness. I was watching something today about Celine Dion, and that she literally had to be in a wheelchair to attend her son's wedding. Now, I haven't had a chance to check that out. It was a video, but I want to just put the word out that I haven't had a chance to actually check that out, that it actually was true, because now we know we got to be so careful of anything that we see. But I do know that she has not been well, and she has a neurological disease going on, that and she's had to cancel her whole world tour. So really sad to hear about that. Hi there, Jeannie. Um, so again, another legend. Jeannie's saying it's an autoimmune disease. I thought it was well, I suppose neurological autoimmune. Um, anyway, so we know that she's not a well puppy. And so to me, it's like, I guess I have to admit that I'm of an age where my idols, are getting older and obviously are um, going to be passing, as will my friends. It's very difficult time. And Jeannie, I don't know if you have been there since the start, but I did acknowledge the fact that this is a really difficult week for you. And our hearts and prayers, and thoughts and prayers go to you and with you as you cope with this, year since the fire. I think it was Memorial Day weekend, wasn't it, that you had the fire as well? And then the stuff that's happened with trying to inter um, York. So really difficult for you, I'm sure. But hopefully, now that it's all done, you can sort of exhale a little bit and now, start the rest of your life with great memories. So I'm trying to think, what did I get this week? All right, I got a new top, as you know. I'm busy having to replace all my tops because the tops that I have are not suitable for somebody who's had a mastectomy. So I'm sort of got this new collection of tops for the summer, which is, quite honestly, I just keep buying one more, and then, next month I'll buy another one, and so forth. So I've got, this is the it's just like, yeah, I deserve a new wardrobe, and it works. And by the way, this top is actually my mastectomy top, where it had pockets in here, to put the drains that were in. But it's so useful for when you are out in the garden to, put your phone in, or anything else you might want, Kleenex or whatever. It's really nice to have a top that has pockets in it. And I found, and by the way, I wanted to warn you that, be prepared, not scared. The heat waves are coming back. And so from that perspective, uh, I wanted to just check with you, what did you learn from last year's heat waves that you will be better prepared and not scared this year? I definitely am really glad I got the air conditioner, the portable air conditioner, even though it struggles to keep the heat down in the area that it needs to keep the heat down. But what I really need it to do is to keep me cool. And so that works really well. I've also am concerned because, as you know, I replaced my overhead fan with just a light. And the reason for that was because the um, community in which I live has a lot of power outages, and that's what broke my previous fan. Yeah, Jody's saying they're going to be at 90 on Sunday. Yes, it's going to be really hot here today and carrying on, I believe. Um, and we're going to have Jody saying a few more days in the 90s next week. So, we're very similar, but we can do this. So what did you learn? How do you keep cool, and what do you do? For me, I must admit, years of living in Africa really helped me. If you don't know it, you do need to know it, that if you are struggling with heat, the best thing you can do is go and have a shower. And what you do is you get into the shower at a normal temperature that you would shower at. And then you just slowly turn the heat down. And you will be amazed if you do it just bit by bit by bit. You'll be amazed at how much you can turn that heat down as your body cools. And it is just such a great feeling. And by the time you get out, you just feeling so refreshed. It is amazing. So the other thing is, a shower will pull a lot of the heat out of the house, just by virtue of that's what it does. So that's a good one. Jody says for her it is the scarf trick, and that is, to take, as if you've got a long scarf. Hang on. If you've got a long scarf, all you do is at night, if you're too hot, take the scarf and run it under water and then wring it out completely. You don't want it dripping wet, you just want it damp. And then literally put it right over your body like this as you lie in bed. And you will be absolutely shocked. You will go from sweating with the heat into shivering with the cold. And that has something to do with latent, the way that heat transfers. But it really does work. So I'm glad it works for you, Jody, and I hope it works for other people. Oh, by the way, did you know that's the way that the the organizing people do scarves. Okay, just take one end and wrap it around like that, and take the other end and just pull it through, and then you've got a scarf, taking up very little room. Okay, so Jody and Jeannie both letting me know that this Celine Dion thing, she announced that she's been diagnosed with stiff person syndrome, a rare autoimmune disease that causes muscle spasm and extreme tightness. So thank you, guys. Um, but I believe that is, okay, I'm not going to fight that one. The sad thing is that it has happened. And I just need to find out if the video clip I saw of her arriving at her son's wedding, where two people had to help her stand so she could hug her son. Um, I just want to know if that is real. I hope, in a way, I hope not, but I've got a feeling it was. Oh, it was debunked. Thank you, Jody. I did wonder about that. And that's why I put the warning up. Yeah, she is a wonderful singer who is suffering. Absolutely. So regardless of what is going on in her life, you know what I warned you all about, uh, all this AI stuff, the artificial intelligence. Jody's saying it was a different woman that has ALS. Thank you, guys. That's what I wondered. It didn't look to me like it was her at one point, and that's why I wanted to double check it. And now we know. All right. Be very careful of what you see and make sure you double check it. So we're going to be doing a lot of that in this share, that's for sure. So, how about this one? How many of you agree that one step in the right direction is better than 100 years of thinking about it? I'm amazed how many people I meet that just complain and complain and complain, but are not prepared to do anything to help themselves. And to me, that is just like, what a pity. What a pity that they would rather complain about it than do something about it. So again, in terms of your experience, what do you do when you've got somebody that does nothing but complain and doesn't do anything about the thing they're complaining about? I know if it's a medical thing, I will always ask, what does the doctor say? And the reason is that if you really think that you are that sick, then what does the doctor say? And I found that 9 times out of 10, well, I haven't been. Oh, well, how about we discuss this after you've been, so we're dealing with more information. Yeah, Jody's saying it's such a unproductive waste of time. Yeah, Jeannie's adding here, it sounds like a person who never tries versus a person who tries and fails. There is no failure if you try. I'm a firm believer that there is no failure if you try. It means that you were willing to do something different. And that is the important part. Very much so. Emma Stone said, sometimes the smallest step in the right direction ends up being the biggest step of your life. Again, the same idea, all right? And Jody's saying, I have someone like that in my life who's always complaining about medical stuff. And I ask, what did the doctor say? And she gets mad at me. She won't speak to me now. Yeah, thank you. Jeannie's mentioning the journey is important, all right? And, when you look at it, whether it is Jeannie's journey through which started through that massive loss of a house, but I couldn't help but think afterwards, Jeannie, whether that massive loss of your house wasn't preparing you for the massive loss of your husband. in some way. And then I look at my fire and all the loss and change I had to go through. Was that in a way preparing me for, getting cancer? And, it's at the time you don't realize it, but afterwards you wonder whether that was actually preparing you for what was to come. Jody, when I think about your life and all the, diseases you've traveled through, it is amazing. All right. All that you have been through and survived, and all the steps you've taken in the right direction. Yeah, and Jeannie's saying not only the loss of her husband York, but also of her, much loved dog, Misty Moore, and also she had COVID. And so, yeah, difficult stuff. So, be aware that, this is all steps in the right direction. And, if you look at it, was it preparing you for the next thing that was about to come? And if you can see that, it is important. Jodie's saying that this person that's causing her grief, is saying, it's the difficult part is that she's someone who she's adored her whole life, and we've been close for so long, and it hurts now, to be honest. Yeah, of course, because you can't fix it. So, and how important is it? Jeannie's mentioning that, when these things happen, it's really nice to have people who care about you. And they might not be in the same country or the same place or the same town, but people who care enough to understand that what you may be going through. We will never understand totally what you are going through. So knowing that we can't fix things for other people doesn't mean we don't care. And I would think we would probably all agree that just a kind word goes a long way when you're struggling. Somebody once told me, you can never fail if one person believes in you. How about that? You can never fail if one person believes in you. And the idea being that that will give you hope, and therefore you will carry on. Now, I not only got a new top, but I also got one of actually my second, um, I call it my shrivel hose. One of those hoses that doesn't take up very much room, but then as the water comes, it expands and expands. And I've got 100-foot one. It's my second one. My first one I got during the winter, ready for the spring. And the first time, within the first month of my using it, it popped. Now, of course, I couldn't send it back because I bought it in the winter, ready for the spring, but I didn't actually connect it until, uh, a couple of weeks ago. So anyway, I ordered a second one, and the second one is working beautifully. And I must say that it just is wonderful to have one hose that I can walk all around my property and, not have to keep changing hoses. And it's so light, even when it's full of water, it is so light. It's amazing. So I definitely don't think that was a waste of money. It works for me in a big way. And, it is actually funny because once you turn the water off, there's enough water left in it to still water, some other flowers. So I got a system now that I water everything except these things. And those things I water after the water has been shut off, and it's just emptying itself. And then, it is, the kid in me just loves to watch it do that. You know that. You can imagine. I am struggling at the moment, and I've taken a lot of steps in what I hoped was the right direction to try and find a gardener to help me uh, now. And I have yet to have somebody even reply to me. However, I am pleased to say that Wade has offered to come and do my back bank for me while I continue my search. Juju is asking me, is my name Sal? It's actually Sally, and it is, everybody calls me Sal or Mama Sal. Now, one of the steps I took in the right direction that is a change for me is I try to, not try, I take 2 hours in the day where I'm not doing normal things. All right. It's what I call my do something completely different time. In other words, don't do housework, don't cook, don't do this, that, and the other. What I did yesterday was I got in the car and went shopping for plants. And the trick was, can I go there and back in 2 hours? Oh, make the choices. And also, I gave myself a budget. and But it was a budget of so much plus one more David Austin rose. Um, I think you all know I just love my David Austin rose, and I thought I'd show you my new one. This is called Jessica Bell, and it is. Can you see all the buds here? It's got the most beautiful bouquet. So this is a brand new rose to me. Haven't had it before. So I'm very excited about it. Yeah. Now, the thing is, I made a decision, which I normally wouldn't do, is I made a decision to leave it in the pot that it's in until its flowering season is over. And then in the late fall, I will then take it out of that pot and put it into a bigger pot. I fall into the trap of sort of immediately repotting them into something bigger, and then I lose a lot of its growth. Obviously, it is totally happy in the pot that it's in, even though the pot is fairly small. But it probably has. Do I have a picture? Yes. If I show you the size of the pot that it's in, it's amazing how many blooms it's got on it. You can probably see the bottom of it anyway. And you see the size of the pot is actually quite small. But the actual plant is probably 4 feet already. And it's doing that in that size pot. It's sort of the pot is about this big. So I'm going to leave it exactly where it is and just let it do its thing. So I literally just bought things that I wanted, and then I went to check out, and I wonder if I've come within my budget. I was really aware that I didn't want to overspend this year. I'm trying to get what they call a perennial garden. In other words, things that automatically come up every year, be it bulbs or plants that just automatically come up every year. And it was really fun because I've actually nearly got there. And now all I need is just a couple of plants here and there to sort of fill everything in and give it the summer look. And so as they were busy with now, first of all, the rose was ridiculous price, but I love my roses, so that's fine. And that's why I had a budget and the rose, right? Because every year I allow myself one more of those roses. It's like one step at a time I've always wanted a rose garden. So when they, and I went on a special day, which is the VIP day. In other words, they consider you a good client, and so they give you a discount. So I waited for that day, and I watched it going clunk, 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 and it came in exactly on budget. And the rose was extra, but no, including, it came in exactly on budget, including the rose. So I was really happy, and it was way less than I spent last year. However, they will have another sale at the end of June, and that's what I call my smart sale. I go there and I pick up things that are perennials or stuff for autumn. And Last year I picked up things like clematis and stuff like that that normally I wouldn't buy. So I'm going to be doing that. And one or two of them died over the winter. We had a particularly harsh winter, but my one clematis that survived it and looks great. Also, my um, jasmine survived, and so that's looking great as well. So I'm happy. So again, what I will probably do is get another clematis and another jasmine because I know those both like it where they are. So change doesn't happen overnight. It starts with the desire and then one small step in the right direction. I think what we all fail to realize is things take a lot longer than we want them to. We think if we change our diet, it's going to change us immediately, and it doesn't. Ah, interesting. Jeannie's saying in Portland, York had given me a lovely rose bush every year. When we sold the property, all the rose bushes were destroyed. Had we known, we would have taken them. And no roses in Gorham yet. Well, I would encourage you to treat yourself to one rose a year. And, for as many years as you might have left, you'd have a beautiful rose garden. If you are able to look after them, because we know they do take some looking after. So I started this conversation about the plants, saying that I spent 2 hours doing something totally different. Got me out of the house, charged up the car, and it was fun. I got to talk to some people about plants. I actually made a conscious decision to buy uh, normally I would have bought certain plants, and I decided this year I would buy zinnias instead for the very front of my garden, and they are sort of orangey, quite deep orange. And I thought, well, that's a complete change, but I thought it would look really good against my, if you look at my garden and then my yellow house, that it would look great. But then on the sides, hi Kimmy, good to see you. And the sides, I had you know, deep red geraniums with yellow pansies, and that looks really good. And I got about half of it planted out yesterday, and I will do the rest tomorrow. So I'm excited about that. Um, how many more roses will I get? I don't know. And by the way, I'm not putting them in the ground for the very reason that Jeannie is saying, which is I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And I definitely would like to take my roses with me. So they are all in pots, in planters. Now, I know that they won't grow as big because they're in planters, but that's fine by me. Terry Pratchett said every step is a first step if the step is in the right direction. So, Jody, I keep thinking about all that you learned before going in for your bypass surgery, your stomach bypass thing. And I was thinking, what always stunned me about your process was that you ended up surviving literally on bone marrow, bone soup, right? Bone broth. For how long? 3 months or something? That's just about all you had. And I keep remembering that we can actually live very well just on soup. And one of the things that I am now doing is making sure I make soup every day. Not a big stock pot full, but just enough for one day. And the reason I don't make a big stock pot full is I don't have anywhere to put it. And so it's just like every day I'm doing that. For those of you who are going to be watching tonight, we're going to be doing 2 vegetable dishes. One is going to be a ginger carrot soup, and the other one, a vegetable casserole, which is going to be very healthy, but also, use up vegetables, which is what the goal is. One step at a time. Just keep using up more and more. How about this one? How many of you agree that taking a step backwards to regroup is a really good idea after you've taken a step in the wrong direction? You know, and to work out, what have I learned by this? What did I need to know? And with that knowledge, what is my next step? So sometimes taking a step back is also a good step to take. I think about how we have Jody. How is the movement of your foot? Am I allowed to tell you a story about where you went? Thanks. Jeannie's saying, for this weekend, I made beef kibasa with mushrooms, onions, and broccoli, as well as maple baked beans, Worcestershire sauce, soy sauce, and cumin. Oh, that sounds so good. Um, and Jody did an incredible thing. I just want to make sure that we all understand. Jody has a number of health issues going on, and then if that wasn't enough, her foot suddenly got what they call drop foot, which means when she put it down, she couldn't lift it up again. It just literally hung like it was broken. And so she's had to rebuild those nerve connections to tell that foot to lift itself up again and move forward. And she was telling me that she went out to go to a concert this week. How about that? Got out of the house. Well done, Jody. Got out of the house, got fresh air, did something completely new. And she actually did it on the same day as she already had to go to pain management. And so normally pain management alone is a major day for Jody, but she did pain management and then went to the concert afterwards. And that meant that that day she got in and out of the truck 4 times. And for those of you who don't know, that isn't just a little bit of improvement. That is amazing, because in October, she couldn't get into that truck if you asked her to. So it's been a very long, slow process, but you did it, Jody, and I'm so proud of you. And I hope that getting out and doing something different, um, I know it was, you probably needed a day off today, but, you know, you wouldn't take a day off if I asked you to. Um, but, it's just like, well done. Well done. I'm so proud of you for taking those small steps and rebuilding that neurological connection. Karagusha said, I don't try to rush progress. Remember, a step forward, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction. Keep believing. I think that would be the key, isn't it? When Jody had that drop foot, she probably wondered whether she'd ever have use of that foot again. And one of the things that I've always said is that if you have enough motivation, you probably will. But most people will just go, oh, that's it, I can't use my foot anymore. But Jody refused to take that as a given. And she did the work. She did her elliptical work. She has an little elliptical bike that she can turn it on to automatic. In other words, it automatically does this electric, the electrics do it, as opposed to her having to use her muscles to do it. So mine is a manual one where you actually have to push the pedals, but hers, she can get it to do it automatically, which works all those muscles. And as she said, and I quote, I feared it was permanent, but I didn't let that keep me from holding on to the hope that it could improve on its own. It didn't do it on its own. It did it with a lot of help from you. And as Jeannie is so rightly saying, and a positive attitude, I will do whatever it takes to make it work. And the same as with my hip, all right? I really have to say that I it's painful and it's difficult. And I just have to learn different ways of doing things. I can assure you that with a right hip problem, it's not easy getting down and planting plants. But I did it because I wanted to do it. And I didn't do as much as I would normally do. That's called reality. But I will do the rest on Saturday. And in the meantime, I will keep watering everything. I was due to go visiting somebody on Wednesday, but what I noticed was that after the camping trip, I had a cold. Or was it very serious allergies? Anyway, I thought it possibly was a cold. So the person I was going to visit is in a senior facility. And I sent him a note and said, hey, I just want to tell you that I had hoped this would be over by now, but I have a cold. I'm still more than willing to come and visit, but it is your choice. I wanted to give you that choice as to whether you would rather I delay it for a week. And that's what we did. So that was going to be one of my trips out, but that's the truth of it. The other thing is, I think some of you know that the uh, gas tank level thing in my car has stopped working. It's like me, it's old. Things are beginning not to work too well. But is it possible to drive your car with your gas gauge telling you that it's totally full when you know it isn't? Absolutely. It's absolutely possible. Oh, yes, Judy's saying that the pollen count has been high. It's been horrific here. We've got cottonwood flying all over the place. So that I realize that it could be an allergy thing. And if I still am sneezing and coughing next week, I'll let him know. I think this is allergy now because of the cottonwood rather than the cold. So if I come sniffing and coughing, it's not because of a cold, it's because of the allergies. Anyway, yeah, Jody's saying it's horrible. Allergy season is horrible there. Yeah, and Kimmy, who is in Wyoming, said that she's got sinuses. Um, I am sorry to hear that. I hope you feel better soon, Kimmy. Now, I bought something else new. Hang on. Some of you who've been watching me for quite a while know that I've been making butter. And I decided I've been doing it long enough now that obviously I'm going to continue. I'm not going to be buying butter anymore. So I bought myself a pair of butter paddles. What do you use them for? After you've finished making the butter and getting most of the water out, then you use these to really pat the butter hard like this to force out any extra water. But it makes the cutest little butter things. Hang on. You know me. If it looks pretty, it's got to be good. So with the leftover cream that I had, I made these cute little butter packs. And I want to tell you, I don't use a lot of butter, but I had corn on the cob this week. And it was so nice just to bring out one little cube and rub it over the corn on the cob. And there we go. The other thing is, I love it when people come to visit where I can just give them give them some butter. And the thing is that it's not a case of buying stuff to make it. It's like whatever cream I have left at the end of the week gets turned into butter. And it's so simple. Who knew? So I'm very happy. But Jody, I'm thinking time to make some pasta with these as well. All right. So that's on my list of things to try. Oh, Jody's saying a fun project too. I've seen people using butter paddles. Yep. Yes, a ganache. How do you pronounce that? A noshi board? That's exactly how I was going to do it. So I thought of not this Friday because or the next one because I got 2 Fridays already worked out, but the third one we're going to be trying that. Um, Again, I didn't see that as a big waste of money. What I saw it as is I obviously am going to continue to make butter, and therefore, it's something that's going to do that. Kimmy's saying we've been getting rain every day. We need it to pull some of the smoke out of the air. Yes, we've been lucky. The smoke hasn't got to us yet. As you know, it has done in the past. So I'll keep my fingers crossed. So I'm sorry that you had the smoke, but I'm glad that it rained to clear the air a bit. How about this one? Albert Einstein said this: logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. So some of you know about this time of the year, I start thinking about Christmas. What am I going to give people for Christmas this year? Now, I think you all know that my very close, dear friends are all going to get bits of, the Christmas village. Okay. And that's a really important thing for me. Um, I've started making these little Christmas villages. So that I already have done. I've already got those ready for them, for those who haven't already got them. But the other thing I wanted to try, because I've never done it, is to make some soaps, some homemade soaps. I don't know about you, but there's something about a homemade soap that is special. And I was quite honestly inspired to do that by something that I watched this week. I was watching an incredible program about different artisans around the world who refuse to stop doing things the old fashioned way because they don't want the craft to be lost. And one of them was a guy in Sicily, I think. No, Lebanon, maybe. I think he was in Lebanon. Anyway, who is, making olive oil soap um, on the floor. Just amazing to watch. And as he said, it's not about the money because there just isn't the same amount of money in it if you do it by hand as it is if you do it by machine. But he said what it is the love that is in it. And you could tell that each one of these people, it was their passion to do it that kept them going. There was a baker, and you could tell, he was 85 and still baking. Yeah, Jeannie's saying 1 year I gave friends a bar of Maine soap because I love the idea and wanted to support this local industry. Yes, the same way, Jeannie, as you sent me, all right, the mustards. And I still have one jar that I haven't opened, by the way. It's getting close because the second one is nearly finished now. But I only use it for special occasions, and it's really fun. So I think it's wonderful that you do that. So yeah, it gives her joy to promote her state. And I think that's really important. So first of all, what I decided to do was to make soap the easy way. In other words, I bought a little soap making kit, which I thought you guys probably would like to see how that works. And then once I've got that idea in my mind, I've already started researching how to make olive oil soap, because that's what that guy in Lebanon was making. And it really did look wonderful. Um, how about this? Henry Link said, while one person hesitates because he feels inferior, The other person is busy making mistakes and becoming superior. How many of you know that in learning anything new, I'm going to make mistakes, but it's okay. And there's part of me that goes, it's not just about making the soap, is it? I'm going to have a little label around it, Sal soap or Sal sensational soap. Um, and then the raffia around that. How many of you? Oh, the string, you know, the butcher's string. So I'm going, yeah. Who wouldn't want to receive a bar of beautifully wrapped handmade soap? So the thing is that the longer that you let it cure, the harder it gets. All right. So they're saying the very minimum would be about 6 weeks, and that's why I want to start now, and I will see how hard the soap becomes in the time that I've got. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you are as well. And I don't have to buy molds. Oh, that's very good. Jody's saying if I added a perfume to it, it could be Sal's sensational, like in sensational soap. Yeah, and it's just like I quite often I keep I use balsamic vinegar a lot, but I keep the bottles. All right. And then what will happen is I will make up. I make my own special salad dressing, um, and I quite often will use these, and then I will make somebody um, their own salad dressing. And it's about being able to take something that you made. All right, that's the important thing. So Deacon Jones said, it took me a long time to figure out that real big time success comes from taking lots of small, ordinary steps in the right direction. And you can't ever take the next step until you've taken the first. So, getting the little soap making kit, I think that's made with soy. I'll find out and show you. But how many of you know I'm getting quite excited about starting the Christmas thing? So pretty good, huh? I don't know why. That little kid in me went, I'd like to do that this year. I've always wanted to do it, never done it. Time to do it. But all the different things that people were doing. There were candle makers. There was this woman who was making candles in Mexico, I think, and she just really loved making candles, even though people could buy them much more cheaply elsewhere. But then she decided to make a value-added candle. And what she did is she had these big, what I call church-type candles that she made, and then she was making wax flowers that she then decorated the candles with. And she's in a touristy type place, and these things are selling like hotcakes. And people are using them for all sorts of official church things. People are buying them for, when you have high days and holidays. And it was just like she created her own market by doing this, and now employs half the village to help her because it's so successful. But again, it could all be done by a machine, but she chooses to do it all by hand, and they all love it. And there were weavers, knotting um, rugs by, as we know, they originally were done by. And then what else did we have? Anyway, there were so many different things. I want to tell you, I was mesmerized with each one, because the one constant in all of them um, was their love for what they did. That baker, uh, he doesn't make money out of the bread that he bakes. He makes money out of the tourists coming to watch him do it. He was smart enough to know there wasn't enough money left in it to, he still sells it and has a living off it, but it doesn't make him really good money. But all the visitors coming to watch him do it, that makes money. So it's like, isn't that interesting? For the love of what they do. So they took a step back into what used to work and said, I want to carry on doing it. But it was just, people making knives, it just all sorts of things. And it was just like each one of them, I was going, that is a work of art. And I, as somebody that loves to create, I know how much time it takes, and it's well worth it. Now, question. How many of you have been watching my microgreen project? Hold on one second. I pray I don't get this all over. How's that going? I want to tell you, I now add microgreens. I now add microgreens to everything. I'll make myself a pita in the morning or at lunchtime, and I will just take a couple of handfuls and put it in the pita. I will have a soup, and I'll take a handful and sprinkle it on top of the soup. I am big into micronutrients now. Yeah, and Jeannie's saying that she bought, hang on a second, one of these boards, charcuterie board, and from a guy that found a particular piece of wood and refinished it. Yeah, and for the hours it takes to do that, he would never get his money back, right? But it's about the love of doing it. So I think it's really important. If you're wondering what to do this year, pick up a hobby that takes time and don't worry about whether you ever sell anything. Just do it for the love of doing it. And like me, you may want to start by getting the kit. Like they make, it's like, I was really worried about making lye, Lye, which is the component that they put into soap. I'm worried now that I've got microgreens in my teeth. Hold on one second. If ever you want an instant mirror, go to your phone, turn to the camera, and then you've got, hopefully, okay, we're good. And then you've got a mirror. Think about that. Now then, talking about love, I don't know if you saw that, but there's been a letter found that Michael Laundrie, you remember that whole case about the guy who killed his girlfriend and then killed himself? But there was a letter written from his mother to him saying that she loved him so much that if he went to jail, she'd bake a cake and put a file in it. And that if he killed somebody, she would help him dispose of the body. I read that and I thought, that's not love. There's something weird about that. What do you think? Do you think that's love? And the reason I say that is because I've got a line over which, I don't go. I can remember once in my life knowing somebody who used to be in the drug trade and then cleaned up their act, and one day was sitting in my house and said, I'm really short of money. I'm thinking about going back. And I said, hey, If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But just know you lose me in that process, because that's your choice to do that. And my choice is not to um, be part of that. However, if ever you cross the line back again, no, I'll be here. You understand? In other words, I'm not going to be part of something that's illegal. And then I found out a friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, was busy double dipping the welfare system in a way. And as soon as I found out, I said, I just need to tell you that you have got 1 month to stop doing that. If I find out you're still doing it a month from now, I will report you. And she said, how can you do that? That's not fair. I said, what's not fair is I pay into a system that allows people to get helped. And you are abusing that system. And I will not sit by and watch you do that. So you just need to know, if I can prove that you're still doing it, I will report you. But you're meant to be my friend. I said, one day you will know I am your friend. I love you enough to make sure you don't keep doing something that could land you up in jail. It's just like, I don't believe that helping somebody do something illegal is love. All right, so let's see what happens here. Jody's saying that she's mortified by that. And Jeannie's saying horrible. Love is kind, not making two wrongs. Yeah, and Jeannie's saying friends choose honesty. Yeah, I must admit that I do not support illegal, stuff like that. However, I'm just seeing Kimmy here saying she made some homemade soap and had to stop using it. It was burning her skin. Interesting. Which is one of the reasons why I want to start making it early so I can check it out. Do you think you got the measurements wrong in some way? Obviously, something was not right that it did that. The other thing I found out, and I'm really interested in this, I found out there is a way of making soap without using lye. Lye is the stuff that really can do that to you. And so I found out you can make soap without using it. And that's going to be my experiment. It might not be quite as much lather. The other thing is I want to make shampoo soap. All right, because that will reduce the amount of plastic I use. But first, I want to be able to find out, does it work? Have any of you used a shampoo soap bar rather than a shampoo out of a bottle? Lasts far longer. But what is really nice is, you're not using plastic. Valerie Bertinelli said, I think of every step in a workout as a step in the right direction. I have to admit that I have got this new mentality which goes, oh, if it's time for me to start binge watching, I know that I take the first half hour of binge watching in the evening where I go and I sit on my futon, which is where my mini bike is, my under desk type bike. I go there for the first half hour. And what I do is I just pedal and watch and do some weight work and stuff. And I have a series of special exercises I do. And, it's like part of my life now that, I didn't have to find extra time. It's just that's what I do the first half hour of watching television. So I would encourage you to multitask the movement if you can. And by the way, I've been amazed how many times I've got 6,000 steps in without even going to the bike. That surprised me. So I have changed. All right. So Kimmy's saying, I can't find a good shampoo that doesn't build up on my hair or make it dry. Okay. So I want to tell you one of the things I really enjoy doing is before I use a shampoo, I take bar soap and I wash the gunge off my hair with bar soap because it really does clear all the product out. And then I use a good quality shampoo. So now the other thing I did this week that made, how many of you can see I did a lot of new things this week? When I say new things, I really didn't sit around a lot of time, doing nothing other than aimlessly watching um, videos. What I did was stuff, right? And one of the things I did was I decided I was going to make my own toilet bowl cleaner. Now, if any of you've got one of those toilet bowl cleaners where um, the the bottle looks like a duck, you know the one I mean? Buy it once and then refill it. And how many of you would like a really simple way to refill it? I couldn't believe how simple that mixture is. It literally is. Oh, Kimmy's saying denture tabs. Yep, that's one way of doing it. The recipe that I found was literally 50% vinegar and 50% Dawn. So 1 cup of vinegar to 1 cup of Dawn, and you have got yourself a bowl cleaner that will stick to the bowl because the Dawn is thick, will stick to the bowl, and the vinegar will cut through anything that's there. Pretty simple. Think about how much or how many bottles, plastic bottles, you will save in a year by not having to buy that. Now, you can also spritz your toilet bowl with vinegar and then throw some bicarb on it, and that will do the same thing. But to me, it's just like I like the liquid one, so I've now learned to make my own. So to me, I am constantly looking, as you know, to lower my carbon footprint. But I am also aware that lowering my carbon footprint isn't as easy as it sounds. And I'm just still amazed at how much plastic I throw out every day. And most of it now is what I call packaging plastics. What I found, hang on a second. I'm a great believer in buying in bulk. 1 year I bought this big Montreal steak spice container. And as you can see, it's nearly finished. And so what I've done is I have bought Montreal steak spice in bulk to refill it. No, not in a glass bottle where I'll pay a lot of money for the bottle. All I need is more of the stuff. I've already got the container. And so that'll be coming in this afternoon. So I'm looking forward to that. When you think about it, how often can you say to yourself, as Lily Tomlin did, hey, it's a step in the right direction, right? It's like we won't fix all these things in a heartbeat, but it's a step in the right direction. I just keep going back to what Jody did about that foot that wouldn't work and how she systematically, day by day, kept exercising that foot, whether it wanted to be exercised or not, until the neurons started making the right connection again, or the nerve endings, whatever. So to me, I think it's really important that we see these little steps that we take have long-term benefits. I started realizing that I need more sleep. And you know that, but I'm not going to get more sleep unless I go to bed earlier. So it's been my goal. I used to go to bed about 2. It's been my goal to get to bed before 1 and preferably closer to 12, which means that I need to do some of my binge watching in bed rather than in the living room, which is okay. And it's funny because I've been doing quite a good job of it of late, and my sleep has definitely improved. The amount I'm sleeping has improved. Um, but it's not easy to retrain your brain to go, I want to go to bed earlier. It's difficult because your habit is to go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, or mine is. So I just keep reminding myself, in order to go to bed before 1, I need to be cleaning up the kitchen by midnight. All right, because that takes longer than you think it's going to. So it's all about working one step back in order to be able to achieve that goal. And so, but I'm doing it pretty well. And also, if I keep it at the kitchen, I'm trying now as I'm cooking to also clean up the kitchen, most of the kitchen, so that by the time I go to bed, I just need to turn on the dishwasher. So how many of you can see that all these little steps, all right, have built up the number of steps that I do in a day? And because I'm doing more steps, I don't have to plant everything in one day. Just have to make sure that it keeps getting watered so it doesn't dry out. But I can do half one day and the other half another day. And it will still all be just fine. I know now that I can, take the greenhouse covering off my tomatoes. By the way, I've already got a tomato growing. I'm so excited. Outside, I've already got tomatoes growing, the actual tomato. And it looks like it's not the small cherry one, but a grape one. And he's just like, isn't that fun? How many of you remember, all the stuff I've been doing with the hydroponics? And I've been failing miserably with the hydroponics, but I don't quit. And so now I've got my 3rd generation of hydroponics, and they seem to be growing fairly well. We'll see. And will it ever produce anything? I don't know, but it's worth the try, because if it does work, then I know I can grow vegetables all year round in my bathtub. And it's just like, when I say vegetables, tomatoes and peppers, that's what I want to be able to. They're the 2 things that I buy every week, and I'm going, wouldn't it be nice not to have to buy them, that I could just grow them? And I could grow them 12 months of the year. So with all that I'm doing, I'm still putting on weight. So then I realized, well, there has to be more than this that I need to look at. So now I realize that part of the weight that I've got is water retention. So now I've gone back to taking a diuretic. And I've only been taking about half a diuretic about every other day. But I think that that's making sure that I don't get too much water retention going on. Once I'm sort of used to it again, then I will bring it up to a tablet every other day, or half a tablet every day. Unfortunately, that stuff really has an effect on me. And if I take one, I sort of can't leave home. So, it's like I have to be very careful, which is why every other day works for me, because I can work out which days I want to take it. But do you understand? I'm working on improvement. All right. I'm working on whatever I need to do. I will find a way to lose this weight. All right. And quite honestly, between the 2, 3 of us, 4 of us, whatever, between us, it is easier for me to blame the medications that I know are creating a lot of my problem. I could just say, well, this is the weight I'm going to be because of the medications. I can blame the medications, and I'd probably be quite right in that. But here is my bottom line. My bottom line is I have choices or excuses. My choices are that I can continue to do whatever I need to do to find a way to lose it. Or I can become somebody who just sits on their butt all day and says, I can't lose the weight. I've tried, and it's the medication that's creating it, which would be true. But like Jody, right? I don't want this much weight. Um, because I know it's not good for me. So I will continue to find ways. And part of what you're hearing, I hope, is that I am entertaining myself a lot more. I found, for example, I spend a lot of time sitting on the couch in front of my computer researching things. I've now said, you don't have to sit down to do that, right? So now what I'm doing is a lot more research on this computer. So I come into the kitchen and I will do a bit of research while I'm standing, because I want to keep, using my hips and make sure that I'm keeping them, properly lubricated and working, even if it's a little painful. Karen Dawn said, I wholeheartedly encourage any steps in the right direction in whatever time frame works for the person on the path. So give yourself a moment to think about, what is it you want to change in your life? What is it you want to change in your life? Right? If I want to empty the amount of food in my freezers, it's not going to happen by wishing it. I've got to stop buying food, making food, and putting it in the freezer. I can make food and eat it, but I can't put it in the freezer. Literally, I can't put it in the freezer. There's no space left. So what I realize is I've got to accept the fact that I've got more than enough food in the freezer to keep me going, as I've said, probably for a season. But I don't want to be doing that in the summer. Well, hello, I've got to get creative. So either I'm going to eat it or else I'm going to be throwing some out. And I just found some smoked salmon in there. When did I buy smoked salmon? I don't know. But I'm going, that's nice to eat in the summer. So I'm going to be taking one out and slicing it, because we know I got a slicer now, and having smoked salmon. I love smoked salmon and lemon. Just a small amount. So it's possible to get creative. And again, I'm going to find more and more little soups that I can make just to make sure that I do that. So here we go. What steps are you taking? Yeah, Jeannie's saying she puts dates on freezer items so she knows when they went in. I know when mine went in. At the, the stuff at the bottom went in at the beginning of the pandemic. So we know the stuff at the bottom is 2 years old, except where I've recycled it. And I have been recycled it all once, I think. So, it's just like, but what I know is it is time. And I think it's a really good idea to date the stuff. But the question is, different things last different amount of time, doesn't it? So do you also put a use by date? Not just the time it went in, but I would think, just thinking out loud here, Jeannie, maybe what we need to do is to put a use by date on it rather than the date it went in. Because things like dairy, they have a different life, or fish has a different life. Now, I do know that the smashed salmon went in there fairly, within the last couple of months. So I thought it'd be really nice to use that. I found some other fish in there that I'd bought and never used, and I just chucked it out. But do you get my point that maybe putting the date I put it in isn't the good one? It's about what is this? Is it a dairy type product? And what is the freeze life of a dairy product? If this is a roast of meat, what is the freezer length of a good roast, roast beef or something? But I will say that without a doubt, I have not had any reason to regret buying a roast, cooking it, slicing it, and using it. For example, I really felt like having um, shepherd's pie this week or cottage pie. And what I did is I went to the freezer and I got some sliced beef and I just put it in the blender and created ground beef and then put an equal amount of vegetable in the blender and blended that up and then made shepherd's pie, cottage pie, which is all that mixed up and then some potato on top of it. And, it didn't matter that it was sliced beef. I can grind it into what I want. And that is one of the things I had this week. I took out some turkey cubes and also had some sliced beef and some sliced ham, if you remember, and made a really nice plate of cold cuts to eat, with the microgreens. It was just amazing. And it was, very protein rich. That was good for me. Ah, Jody is telling us 4 to 12 months for beef. Oh, no. Frozen beef will be safe indefinitely. However, for the best quality, use uncooked steaks, roasts, or chops within 4 to 12 months. Uncooked brown beef within 4 months. Yeah, that's why, if you notice, Jody, I like to cook my meat and then freeze it. All right. So I've got a roast. I've got a roast that I'm going to take out now because it needs to be cooked. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook it and then turn it into sliced meat, and then I will freeze it. So that'll give it another life, just because it's now cooked. And by the way, I don't undercook it. I cook it through to make sure that that it's good. So, it's all about, it's possible to do. And I've really found that pre-cooking stuff, as I said, I suddenly felt like having cold meats with a salad. And I just had I had some turkey, I had some ham, I had some roast beef. It was a wonderful meal. And, just a little, not a whole lot, just a couple of slices of each. So really recommend that. All right, that's it for today. Take small steps in the right direction and think about what it is you want to change. And I know that the biggest issue that I've got, funny enough, in my freezers is not meat. At the moment, I think my biggest issue is vegetables. All right. And so I'm going to be doing a lot of vegetable based cooking because I need to get rid of it or throw it out. So this is DearMamaSal saying, is it a waste of money? No, quite honestly, a lot of it was stuff that I cooked with you, and it produced more than I thought it would, and so it ended up in the freezer. So now it's a time of saying, well, it's time for it to go. What I'm aiming for, because it's good to have vision, I'm aiming to have my deep freeze just have roasts in it. And that my freezer here in the kitchen has meals in it. In other words, if I've used the roast, have I got deli meat in this freezer? Have I got, a couple of stews in this freezer? In other words, when I go to eat during the week, I've started making a calendar of what I need to eat. And then I want to be able to open up this freezer in the kitchen and know that I have that food. It just needs to be thawed. So that's what I'm aiming for. And that allows me to buy roasts when they're on sale, regardless of what time of the year it is. And also, I obviously saw a deal on peas. Why? I have 3 bags of peas. So I'll be adding peas to a lot of things this week. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, thank you for being here with me. I hope that you had reason to think. And is there anybody that was going, I need to do something? And if so, if it's time for you to make a change, remember one small step in the right direction is a start. And that's what I'm hoping to inspire you to do. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, I'll see you tonight when I'll be cooking up some food and with vegetables. Bye bye for now. Thanks for your help. And thanks, Jody.